Breaking news right now, President Trump firing FBI Director James Comey under the recommendation from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Joining me now to discuss Louisiana's Attorney General Jeff Landry, along with Tammy, Bruce, Rich Lowry. We also have Jeff DeWitt with us as well. Guys, let me just read the letter that President Trump sent to Director Comey. I have received the attached letters from the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General of the United States recommending your dismissal as the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have accepted the recommendation and you are hereby terminated and removed from office effective immediately. While I greatly appreciate you informing me on 3 separate occasions that I am not under investigation, I nevertheless concur with the judgment of the Department of Justice that you are not able to effectively lead the Bureau. It is essential that we find new leadership for the FBI that restores public trust and confidence in its vital law enforcement mission. I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Signed, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Let me go to you first, Attorney General Jeff Landry. Listen, you understand the job as well as anyone else, obviously on a larger scope. Many have been scratching their heads why this hadn't been done earlier. Apparently, the tipping point was the flip-flop or the conflicting information whether or not Uma Abedin had sent hundreds, perhaps thousands of emails to her husband's laptop, or just a handful. How could they get that wrong?
Yeah, it's amazing that they did, if in fact that was true, and evidently it is. I think that what we saw here is that the president is being consistent. If he finds someone in his cabinet or right underneath in his purview, in his circle, is misled Congress or is misled him, then he seems to have indicated exactly how he would deal with them, and that is to terminate him.
Tammy, this is, I got to tell you, this is an absolute bombshell. President Trump has stood by James Comey through a lot. I mean, I thought actually, to be quite frank with you, he would be one of the first fires, and he never got out of the news. He was always in the forefront of the news. There was always confusion every time he opened his mouth, and I think it was a long time coming, but it was certainly, in this particular case, without a doubt, warranted.
Yeah, one of the problems, of course, is that when you're the story, something has gone very wrong, and that was the case with James Comey consistently. He would also give speeches. I mean, he was someone who clearly liked or did not mind being in front of the camera, that his involvement seemed to be very different. His attitude, of course, irritated people, but both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, were appalled at one thing or another. And I think that's an indication also, and the president's right in his letter, it's got to be about trust with an agency like this and someone in this kind of environment who is looked to with respect and trust when it comes to the choices they're going to make.
Well, respect and trust, Rich, I hate to say it, but something that we're no longer associated with the Comey name/friend. The irony, of course, is everyone on both sides of the aisle gave him the benefit of the doubt. A year ago, he was held in the highest of esteem by everybody in this country, no matter what your political ideology was. That's all changed.
Yeah, Tammy's right. Everyone's been upset with him at some point or other and lost confidence in him at some point or other. Now, I have some sympathy with him. I think he was in a difficult situation. Once you have a presidential candidate who's under FBI investigation, it's going to be really ticklish how you handle that. And I do think that the reason why he broke with policy and talked about it is because Bill Clinton met with Loretta Lynch and undermined the public's confidence in the investigation. Now, the irony about doing it at this particular time, though, Charles, is that the entire left, which as of 15 minutes ago probably wanted Comey to go for supposedly throwing the election to Donald Trump and hurting Hillary Clinton, at the end will be appalled and will say this is the biggest scandal since the
this is certainly going to fan those flames. But Rich, I do want to ask you though. I mean, you have sympathy for him, and yet he spoke publicly about something that perhaps he should not have, and then he laid out this amazing rationale for indicting Hillary Clinton and decides not to. I mean, so he creates this firestorm, a circular firing squad at himself, and he compounds it every single time he opens his mouth.
Yeah. Well, the answer is he never should have opened his mouth. That would have been the right decision. Just stick with policy. We have policy and practices for a reason. And I think the justification for not recommending an indictment for Hillary, he said she didn't have the intent, but that's not in the statute. So he's basically reinterpreting the statute. So I said, you know, when Trump was elected, He should get Comey out at some point. It's just this particular timing is going to make it feel like a political bombshell.
And in his testimony the other day, he said that it was the Loretta Lynch meeting with Clinton on that tarmac that made it untenable for him. Frankly, what he should have said that when he was having that press conference, saying, I know this is unusual. I'm in this untenable position. Here is what I'm doing. But none of that occurred, and then you have this added in element of intent, which was meaningless when it came to the statute.
Right, that was his own interpretation, which was an incorrect interpretation at that. I want to go to Blake Burman. We've got Blake Burman with the latest. He's on the phone right now. Blake?
Hi there, Charles. A couple notes from the White House perspective on this. First, a senior White House official telling Fox tonight that it is, quote, coincidental. This firing of James Comey happened on the same day as this Huma Abedin news. As you know, when Comey testified earlier this week on Capitol Hill, he said that there were hundreds of thousands, I believe, he said, of emails that were forwarded from Huma Abedin to Anthony Weiner. It turns out that that was an over-exaggeration, and Comey had been in the headlines on this day because of that. And there was a lot of questions as to how the FBI might go about it, how they might correct the record, and so forth. But the White House, their line tonight is that this is merely coincidental. Secondly, at the press briefing today, the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer was asked about whether or not the president still has confidence in Jim Comey, and as it relates to, it was brought up in the context of these Abedin emails and the testimony. And Spicer said yes, as far as he knows, that the president does have confidence in him. However, he did hedge a little bit by saying, well, at least as it relates to the last time that I talked to him. Interesting on that note from Spicer earlier today. And I'll leave you with this, Charles. This is fairly coordinated from the White House on this night because they have put together a packet for reporters, basically material, links, articles, even quoting Democrats as to why Jim Comey needed to go. So even though this appears to be if not random, or at least out of nowhere, this is clearly something that the White House has been building up to, a statement from the president on this day, and Jim Comey is out. And, of course, now the big question is, where does the president, where does the Department of Justice go from here?
Thank you very much. Blake Burman, Fox Business. I want to go to Josh Blackman, South Texas College law professor, also Cato Institute adjunct scholar. Josh, what do you make of this? I mean, the legalities of it leading up to this, and where do we go from here?
Well, Charles, thanks for having me. As a threshold matter, the president can fire Director Comey for whatever he wishes. But the fact of the matter is this was a very well coordinated and planned decision. Letters were sent from the Attorney General, from the Deputy Attorney General, and other high-ranking officials explaining that they did not have confidence in Mr. Comey in conducting investigations, not only for Clinton's emails, but all sorts of investigations. And as a result, they decided to go in a new direction.